Recording guitar is a delicious piece of cake. After we got all the connections right and we're getting signals from the guitar, it's basically just a matter of record and edit. The way I like to record the guitar is by selecting an amplifier simulator in the insert and play it live directly with the song. First, to hear what we're doing, press on the monitor button, or better yet, make a key command for it. I designated the key V, and strum your guitar. If you can hear the sound and see the bars rising, it means you got a signal coming. In the audio track, the insert tab is right here. Expand the list, and after clicking on the first box, I'll type tuner and enter the tuner under tools. Now I'm not gonna say twice. Tune your guitar before every recording. It would be practically impossible to change the fake notes once the recording is complete. I suppose that if you own a guitar, you also know how to use the tuner. But just in case you're new or want a reminder, I start from the bottom up. And with every single string I'm strumming, I'm making sure the square here will be as much in the middle as possible. The standard tuning from the bottom up is E, A, D, G, B, and E. All checked. And now open a new insert under the tuner, and if we'll go to the distortion folder, we could find some nice distortions from Tonberg, including the tube simulator, the amp simulator, which is pretty cool, regular distortion. I'm not using this one much for the guitars. Magnet tape. But my favorite from Tonberg is the VST amp rack, that for a free plugin sounds pretty awesome. At first glance, you can build your own chain of sound. We have effects to pick that will affect the sound before going into the amplifiers. So we can add, for example, a gate that will mute the sound whenever it's going under a certain ratio I'll determine, a compressor, and a wah pedal, which we can automate or learn it in the quick controls. Or better yet, control it with the MIDI expression pedal you can connect to your keyboard. Just make sure you have a MIDI expression pedal connection in the back of your keyboard. You can change the parameters with the knobs, and you can drag them around and switch their places. That, just like in the inserts, will affect the next pedal and be affected by the pedal before. I have a schematic in the download section with the best way to organize your pedals. Turn on the effects by pressing on the button, turning on the light, and change or remove them by clicking in the middle and choose whatever you want from the list. Now to the amplifiers. You have here 8 selections you can pick from, and all of these are emulating famous amp heads, including the Marshall Plexi, Fender Tweed, a combination between the PV5150 and Mesa Boogie dual rectifier, some old school British tone, and the Fender Blackface. Or pick no amp to use nothing but the sound of your guitar and the pedals. Each amp you pick will change the tone and the appearance of the amp settings. Let's go over the parameters. Gain is the amount of volume coming from the guitar, and the more you push, the more you compress the sound, which leads to a bigger and dirtier tone. The bass, middle, and treble are equalizers of the amp. Notice that they sound a bit different compared to the equalizers in Cubase, so make sure to use them to shape the main sound. The presence knob is boosting the high frequencies and giving the overall sound a bigger and stronger feeling. And the master is the main volume. Next are the cabinets. These are the speakers which increase the sound from the amplifiers and giving them their own original tone. Every amp released had one or more related cabinets, and that's what you have here. You can link between the amp and the original cabinet, or spice it up with other combinations. The post effect are pedals you put on the sound coming out of the cabinet. You can use it to place special effects and add some compression. Microphones are simulating the real way an electric guitar is being recorded. In the old way and in some studios today, you place a microphone in front of the speaker and recording it directly to Cubase as an audio file. This basically does the same and allowing you to combine two microphones, a condenser and a dynamic, to catch the sound coming out of the cabinet. You can change their positions and mix the microphones, while all the way to the left is the condenser and the other way is the dynamic. The configuration is showing you the way your chain is organized. And in the master, you can use the EQ to change the frequencies of the sound, and you also have a tuner you can use. The master is controlling the overall sound, including the effects and everything else. Don't forget that you can also use presets and edit them the way you want. Let's try one. Now let's try a second one. Sounds pretty good. Let's change the cabinets. And lower the bass. I gotta admit that even though the amp simulators in Cubase are pretty amazing, there are some incredible amp simulators out there. The most famous ones are Amplitube, S-Gear, Bias, Revolver, and Guitarig. You might pay a little bit, but I think this is a good investment. The best thing is, they are working pretty similar to the VST amp rack, though I personally think they sound a bit better. Just don't forget to download the demo before you run to buy anything. Check out for example how Amplitube sounds on two guitars on a project with drums and effects. The stages might be slightly different from the VST amp rack, but you basically got the same features. We start from the tuner, then go to the effects. After that we have the amps, and then the cabinets, with selection of cabinets, microphones and their positions, the type of room you record in, and even some mixing. And in the end you have an effects rack. You could also get a great sound with free alternatives, which you can download in the download section. These are all free plugins I collected around the internet. So in the downloaded file you have, by order of placement, 6 useful effects, also containing a notebook with the information about all these effects, 14 different amp simulators, including bass, clean, and many others, and the cabinet loader with 32 and 64 versions. To this plugin you can load cabinet simulators, and you can choose between a staggering amount of 8,000 samples. So don't you say you can't find any sound you like. You can find all the samples in the impulses folder. After the download is done, open the file with WinRAR or 7-zip and drag out or extract the files into your main VST folder. Then simply go to the plugin manager and refresh. Now it works pretty similar to the VST amp rack we saw earlier. I'll just mute the insert before that. Now expand the list and go down till you get to the Tonberg collected amps folder. The recommended way to load is to usually first pick the effect. For example, I'll load the Tube Screamer Overdrive. Then choose the amp you want. I'll pick the Legion for this one. Now listen closely, this is how your guitar sounds without the cabinet. Sounds like mud, but it will change as soon as you pick your cabinet. Go to the cab sim, and whether you have 64-bit or 32, pick the one you want. And in there, whenever we click on one of the folders, we're gonna need to get to the impulses in the download section I gave you. And now it's basically a matter of experience. Let's pick the one I know, Marshall for example. And choose this one. Okay, sounds a lot better. Let's add a second impulse to mix things up a little bit. And now we can balance between both of them and choose the position sounds best. Turn the sound on. You have to remember that it's all about balance, so don't go too extreme on any of the plugins. Try changing the effects, impulses and the amps to get different results. So now we know how to choose the sound. Next lesson we'll learn how to record and edit them. Let's rock!